I am Bhavana Chilukuri with my co-host Erin Jensen.
Hi.
And so we're really excited. For this episode, we are speaking with life coach Stephanie MacKinnon about a topic that I've thought so much about, but have never really cracked. And so this is going to be about balancing effort and ease when you're trying to achieve something. And for me, this feels like I don't know, I've thought about this a lot in so many different areas of life. It feels like a holy grail thing. Like everyone talks about how to do it and how like manifesting, you don't have to try, you just put it out there and it should be easy. And then like the other half of people are like, no, you got to try, like you got to go out there and do it. So it just feels like nobody actually knows how to balance the two. I do not. I'm much better at the effort, going really hard at that.
Yeah.
Not as good at the ease. How about you, Erin? How are you balancing
Oh my
effort
God,
and
I'm
ease?
so excited for this episode. As someone who I've likened myself before to Jesse Spano on the caffeine pills when it feels like there's too much. And if you listen to our episode with Kristen Berg, too many rocks. Everything feels like a rock that is weighing me down. You look at Tom Brady, you look at,
Right. Like
and
he doesn't do ease.
There's no ease. Like ease is a nightshade. He is allergic. He does not do ease. And I just saw a speech the other day. He was like, everyone should play football because football is hard. And you're getting up at 6 a.m. and it's hot and you've got pads on and your friends are eating pancakes at the pool. And I was like, no ease. So I'm very excited to see if she can help us find, like you said, that balance, that formula, because it does feel like if I'm not doing anything, then I'm making no progress, but everybody needs rest. So how do we do it and feel less guilty about it? People glamorize the grind. Everybody has a second hustle. I'm excited for this episode. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. Let's get started by welcoming Stephanie to the podcast. Hello, Stephanie.
Stephanie! Okay. Hi, Stephanie. How's it going?
Hi. How are you?
We're so excited to have you on to talk about the struggle to balance effort and ease.
We're struggling. We are
struggling. We are. And we know many people out there are. So would love to hear your wisdom and your learnings on this topic. Just to start, would love for you to tell us about what you do as a life and leadership coach and how you came to this work.
Absolutely. Delighted to be here. Thanks again for having me. Who I am and what I do. It's always such a simple question, but it's a complicated one, isn't it? Because there's so many pieces of ourselves that come into everything that we do. So I worked in community development, nonprofit for about a decade, and I saw a lot of patterns that exist in that world, but I'm sure also exist in other spaces of burnout, of people killing themselves for the cause, being asked to give and give and give, and people end up running on empty. So some of my favorite parts of that work was getting to hold space for different communities, getting to engage in conversations about people's hopes and dreams, supporting them to overcome challenges, all of those juicy realities of living in the world, of lifing. And I saw coaching as an avenue to do that on my own terms. So a lot of what I do now is actually support people who are still in those worlds to try and find this coveted idea of balance. And I think some of the language I've actually shifted to more recently in my work is looking at what are rhythms, what are routines, what are practices that support us. Because I think balance suggests it's a state to arrive at, whereas it's a constant cycle of learning and checking in. But I could ramble about it for a long time, but I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you. That sounds like really important work. I sort of work in that world, so know the burnout that you are talking about. And to that question of balance, maybe we can start just with a little bit around the basics. So I loved what you wrote about the relationship between effort and ease. Could you share what those words mean to you? What is effort and what is
home run first at bat? Yes.
Also, what is ease? What does each word bring up for you, and how do we typically experience each of those things? And I ask that because I think actually most of us know what effort is because we live in effort, but I don't know if people even know what ease should feel like or what experiencing ease should bring up for them.
Like you said, the effort is important because is this too much effort? How can I recognize it's too much?
I think these are really fun questions. And I think I'm going to throw an annoying plot twist in here too, because the thing that stands out in both those questions is what should they feel like?
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the core problems that our society tells us, or that we get stuck in the world we live in, is should. Should is a huge red flag I bring up for people all the time, because what effort and ease feel like to me is not necessarily what they feel like to you or anyone else. I think you're right. I think we know effort. I think we know how it feels to work hard. I think of with effort the pieces that are required to get you to the place you want to be. It is the tedious, it is the mundane. Even if we look at this podcast, right? There were annoying logistics that have to happen to facilitate this conversation to take place, right?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who's like, I love email sending. I love calendar alignment. Like, I love when that stuff works well, but that's not the joyful part that you're doing the work for. So there's always going to be things that have to happen. There's always work. But what ease feels like, I don't know. I think sometimes we need to go back to childhood, or we need to go back to where we were allowed to play. But a beautiful question someone asked me a couple of years ago is, where do you feel most alive? And I was just like, what? Like, yeah. So spaciousness is a word that I often associate with ease. Flow is another one. Yeah. Flow. But there isn't a way you should do it, which is really annoying. I think it's this dichotomous thinking of the world that we're in, right? So I want to be really cautious, because a lot of the stuff that I do is bring awareness to the patterns that we have. And I think they're internalized patterns from capitalism, from the Western world we are living within, there's these indoctrinated ways of being. Our education system has taught us certain ways. Our work system has taught us to mark ourselves against the right way of doing things.
Bob's and I were talking about this a little in the intro before you joined us. Someone who I feel like really lays down a should for me, a foundation of should. Tom Brady, okay? He feels everyone should play football. Everyone should get up at 6 a.m., have the experience of working hard in 90 whatever degree heat while your friends are young and eating pancakes by the pool. So then if it's not sweet Tom Brady, how do we get in touch with ourselves enough to know, are we asking ourselves questions to say, do I feel burned out? Is this too much? Is it time to take it a little easier?
Thank you for this beautiful question. Like, if not Tom, who?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. You were right on the money. It's asking yourself questions, and it's taking moments to pause. It might feel really simple, but even starting with how do I feel right now is really, it sounds so simple, but we are often so much in the doing that getting into the being feels like a completely foreign concept. So checking in with how we actually feel is actually quite radical to the world we live in. Radical in a way of the complete opposite of what we know. So I think a really big shift that can start to happen when you are doing this work to try and connect to a space of ease, spaciousness. And also I think that comes to self-trust, which is really, really important, to shift from looking outside yourself to looking inside yourself as a marker of where you want to be going and what matters to you. Coming back to your Tom example, it's like, well, for Tom Brady, the most important thing in his life was winning a Super Bowl, right? And he's done it. Good on him. But like, if that's not someone's why, if that's not someone's dream, and he's done it a few times, that's not going to give them the same sense of satisfaction. So in moments of checking in, if someone's like, you should do this, a really simple question to ask is why? Does it actually matter to me? Is it part of something that I care about? And if not, who is it serving?
Tom. It's definitely serving Tom. Oh, I love this so much. I love this so much. Okay. Follow-up question to that. Because in my head, you're talking about the dichotomy of thinking. I'm like, okay, there's effort and there's ease. Can there be ease in your work though? When people say you're in the flow, even editing this podcast, 3 hours will go by. Can we feel an ease in our work? And then to me, that would indicate that we're doing something right and we're doing it in appropriate measures. I don't know.
So I have two answers to this. One is that I feel like you started to answer that question right there. When you lose yourself in time, when you are in a flow state, when it's just happening and unfolding. And the silly example I used at the beginning, the logistics that are required to put the podcast together. And as a coach, for me, there's like the effort in finding new clients. There's the effort in all of the admin. There's the effort in the business management that is required. And then there is the flow of how I absolutely love being in conversation, in sessions with my clients, in facilitating programming. I know one necessitates the other and vice versa, you know. But then I also think it's like, what about ease outside of your work? Broadening it even further, because I think obviously the work I'm doing and the work you're doing specifically in this podcast and maybe even beyond it is something that you're passionate about. And I think we can have ease and joy and spaciousness in so many other areas of our life, right? And I think that's the part that a lot of folks forget.
I wanted to read something from what you wrote about a mindset that we as a society have. So you write about how it feels like we have to earn our moments of ease. So striving to be productive is so entrenched in our day-to-day lives that it is often how we determine if something was successful. And if so, we then reward ourselves for it. I see that in myself. Let me finish this and then I'll get to the weekend, right? I can relax on the weekend, but I can't relax on Wednesday. That's the middle of the week, right? So can you share a little bit more about that and what you see that mindset doing to us?
I think it's so deeply entrenched. And I want to be honest, I don't have it all figured out. But I think naming it is such a huge part of seeing it and even being able to recognize it in yourself. What a beautiful practice can be is pausing, even just for a second. I think this is another lie the world tells us, is that it has to be this massive moment, this huge shift. I have it figured out now. And I just don't think that's actually how the world works. So the thing that came to mind as you were giving your example is 2 little nuggets you could do for yourself next time you're in a challenging, or anyone can, next time they're in a challenging circumstance, is 1, pause to remember why, because you moved on purpose, right? And then also just figuring out what those little nuggets of spaciousness are in your day. Can you savor your favorite warm beverage on a balcony or in bed? Can you add frothy milk on top of your coffee? Little things of luxury that make you feel human and alive again.
I don't even want to ask this question, but I've got to ask it. For a type A person, we invited you on a podcast called Most Self-Improved, and a little bit of that is ironic, but it's a little bit of an earnest title. But there's this idea that if you don't put in the effort, then you're not going to succeed or achieve what you want. And I love in the blog that we've been referencing, you wrote about this topic and you told people to ask themselves, what is the story I am telling myself? And how can I let go of additional pressure or expectations? It just gave me chills as I said that, because so much of it, I feel, is for me dictated by pressure and expectations I have for myself. And I haven't even begun to think, what is the story that I am telling myself? I guess a little bit of it would be like, if you watch Real Housewives, you will be a loser and nothing will happen to you ever. And the world will crumble. But can you tell us more about those questions, how they're so helpful in helping us to move past that way of thinking?
Yeah, I think something I've actually been working on since I wrote this is supporting people to redefine what success means for them. I think actually getting clear on where you're moving is really, really helpful. I literally have reflection questions on that available now, so I can send you the link for that. But it just, that question again of why or who it's for. I think Western society, North America in particular, gets really caught up on these external markers of success. And I want to be very clear that everybody deserves a level of comfort, a level of stability. We live in a capitalist world and we need money to survive. But at what point do we lose the plot, is a very Irish saying, and continue in our pursuit of these things to the detriment of our own quality of life? So getting clear on, what does success actually look like for you? What is the dream you're chasing? Because I really believe that a lot of people make a lot of money off of you forever. All of us, not just us here, but a lot of people make a lot of money off of folks never feeling like they're enough, and making money off of us in 2 primary ways. One, through all of our extra overtime work, and another through selling us shit we don't need. So I think it comes back to these questions of what is the story I'm telling myself? And once you're clear on where you want to go, and clear is also, you're allowed to change your mind. You don't have to do the same thing forever, but with a bit more clarity of direction of what actually matters to you, what success looks like to you, not what is dictated by the media or fear-mongered in different reality TV shows.
Is there anything else that you think our audience should know before we let you go? Is there anything else that you were hoping to bless us with today? Any more wisdom?
I caught you had should in the question and you went, and then you kept reading it. Maybe just a tiny bit. Maybe I saw it in your eyes. Maybe it was a glitch on our stream where you paused for a second. Not really. But yeah, I think there's questions I often get folks to ask themselves in the morning when they're feeling like, what should I do right now? And the sequence sounds simple, but simple isn't always easy, right? How am I feeling right now? How do I want to feel? And what would support me to feel that way? So it shifts it from the white knuckling, the clinging, the controlling to an invitation of ease. The support can be something you do for yourself. If you really want to go for a run in the morning, you lay all the things out, maybe make food ahead of time, gifts to future self. Or it can be young parents asking a friend to help it. Can you pick the kids up from school? It can be gifts to yourself, or it can be asking someone else to do something for you. Those three questions sound really simple, but I think they're some of the building blocks of learning to build that foundation of self-trust and shift the focus from outside of yourself to inside of yourself.
Amazing. Those are beautiful questions that definitely need to start asking myself. And lastly, for those who'd like to know more about you, your work, and your coaching, where can we direct them?
My website is my name, stephaniemackinnon.com. And my Instagram is stephmilomac. I'm pretty active on there, like we all are. But yeah, it'd be lovely. Come follow, come say hi.
Amazing. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your thoughts on how we can balance effort and ease. And at the end of each episode, we like to kind of share what we learned or something we're going to take away. So I know I learned so much, but Erin, what is one thing you're going to take away from our chat today?
There's so many things. I have to digest so much. So I don't know that I have, because really it is a struggle for me. I do work in podcasts, and last weekend I took the weekend off and I asked my friend, I was like, do you have Wi-Fi in the car? And she's like, no. And she was like, why? And I was like, I was going to work. And so like just to have less than 48 hours, it was just so nice and refreshing. So I need to take all the things away. I don't know, Bobs, do you have something specific?
I have a couple of things standing out. I think one is that feeling of I'm an ant. I don't know why I keep calling it that. I'm sure there's a better name for it. But I feel like I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about that in a while. And it's always grounding. So just more of that feels helpful. I think just the idea of the idea of is someone benefiting or some institution benefiting from me thinking this way about myself, and what's a nicer, more compassionate way of doing that is something that's sticking with me. And I also just really love the idea of the small things. A warm drink in my bed. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. That sounds so nice. And it's really easy. And I don't really do that except maybe like a Saturday, right? And so building that in more and being okay to do that and enjoying the small things feels like it can help a lot. So,
and I will just add, I think reassessing where that voice comes from in my definitions of success, those are part of the things that I'm going to unpack, but there's so much.
There was one last piece there that it is really hard when you're going from go, go, go. I always remind people that it's not flipping a switch, doing this work. It is those gentle little moments. So, of course, if you've been working every weekend for the last however many weeks, to take a full weekend off is objectively hard. So congratulating yourself for that, and then looking like what supported you to do it, what helped. You're allowed to take the learnings from that and remember that little moments do add up. So yeah, good job. That's all I was going to say.
Good job, Erin.
Thank you.
Amazing. So to everyone who tuned in, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Follow us on Instagram at Most Self Improved, all one word, so we can stay in touch. And I hope you have a great week full of ease and warm beverages in your bed. Bye, everybody.
That was the sexiest end of an episode we've ever had. And support us on OnlyFans. That's how.